going to show you some basics of the pen tool. And so it's right here, the pen tool, and it has a couple of options of adding and deleting anchor points, as well as changing the characteristics of an anchor point. And I'll show you how those work, but we'll just start with the pen tool from the beginning. So if we just start drawing on our document, I can click and drag, and you'll notice as I drag and move, it creates a straight line. So if I just click and let it go and then move my mouse around, I can make straight lines. Again, if I hold shift down, it will constrain those to a horizontal line or more of an angle, 45 degrees, or in this case a vertical line. So that's great because if I want to make a certain type of triangle, let's say, I can click and just hold shift down and that constrains it. You'll notice right now that because I've drawn those points, it filled in that object, but notice over on the left hand corner I have a fill and not a stroke. So sometimes it might be better to actually draw your objects with a stroke rather than a fill, and I'll show you how that works right now. And you'll notice as I get closer up here to this point, as soon as I get on that actual point, I get a little icon next to the pen tool icon, a little circle. And what that signifies is that it's going to close those lines. So it's going to turn that into one shape with those 3 points. So if I click that, now I have a triangle. So if I select, it's already selected. If I go here and toggle my swap, fill, and stroke, you can see now that I have a triangle with a stroke on it. So again, we'll kind of show you the ways of kind of working with that. So now I could change the shape if I wanted to alter that just with some of those basic transform tools, the dragging, if I wanted to scale it and hold it down, hold shift down, etc. But that's one way of dealing with the pen tool. So that's how we draw straight lines. So I'm going to pull that down here. Let's say we want to draw curved lines. So I'm going to go back to the pen tool. Now if I click and then I drag, you'll notice I get these little arms that come out. And what this is going to do is create a Bezier curve. And that helps us create a direction of the curved line. So I might want to kind of have this curve up. And then you'll notice now when I drag, it creates kind of a curved line. So I can click here again and then click and drag, and I get another Bezier curve, and you can see how I can kind of twirl this around to change the shape and form of a particular line in this direction. So I can kind of create different types of shapes and lines and whatnot just by clicking and dragging. And this can get a little bit crazy. So in this case, you can see that I just clicked and now I'm moving. So I'm combining those options of making a curved line and a straight line. Again, when I close this, it's going to close that into a shape. So I could click that and now I've made that shape. So sometimes this is nice too, to change it back to that shape. And I can look at it and think, okay, well, I kind of like what's happening here, but this little edge here seems to protrude way too far out this direction, and this shape here needs to be a little bit higher. So let's show you how we can alter it after the fact. So I'm going to zoom in on the object a little bit, and what we're going to want to do here now is alter those existing points. So if I select this object, you can see I have a point here, a point here, point here, and point here, and here. So I want to alter this point and kind of pull this arm out. So to get an adjustment of that, we need to move to our direct selection tool, which is A. So when we click on that, and then when we click and drag on the object on a part, you'll notice that immediately it selects just a part of it. So it's selecting kind of this segment of this line, or this shape, from this point to this point. So now I can click here on this corner, or this end point of the Bezier arm, and immediately kind of pull that arm up, and you can see that it's changed that width there. If I pull this one down, notice it can alter both, so you kind of got to get used to how this feels. But you can start to see, well, I can make this one a little bit shorter. Maybe I need to pull this one down or out. So you can kind of see how that looks and feels. Okay, and we can alter any of those points however we want. We can also grab a particular point and move it around if we wanted to lessen a certain distance or wherever that works. So it just gives you some control on how those work, especially altering it after the fact. So let's say I want to change this point from a sharp point and make this more of a rounded edge. So right now it's just that sharp point. So that's where this tool comes in handy, the anchor point tool. So I'm going to just click on that, and when I click on this point and click and drag, you can see now I can create a Bezier curve there. So I can make that as round or as sharp as I want. We could then also alter, going back to the A, we could create longer or shorter arms to kind of control the different curves there. So let's go back to this and say, well, now I didn't like that. I want to convert it back to a sharp point. I can just click on that point that has the Bezier arms, and it immediately goes to a sharp point. You can do that with these other ones and watch kind of what happens in terms of the sharpness of a line. So it can make those work. So those are some of the basics of the pen tool. Now let's say I need another adjustment here, so I want another point that I can move. I like this curve, but I'd be able to adjust it. That's where we want to add a point or subtract a point. So notice the keyboard commands on that are just a straight plus and a straight minus. So if I just hit plus or minus, it will change that pen tool. And those are all really close because the P for pen, minus for that, minus point, and plus for that. So then I can click on this curve here and add a point. And then again, I can adjust those lines and shapes to make the shape that I want. So it gives you those options. So again, if you don't like that, minus, or here's this delete an anchor point, we can do that. So that really screwed that up because this line, notice this line is less, so I need to actually change this back up. So it's crossed over. So this can be really kind of tricky. So, but those are some of the basics of the pen tool. But once you get good with this, this is a very important tool in all of the Adobe products, and it gives you a lot of control. It is well worth the time and getting very familiar with it. I would recommend just tracing objects or making traces in Photoshop would work, and then those skills would also transfer into Illustrator here as well. So that's how we use the pen tool to make different types of drawings and objects.